Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Joan Champagne, and I'm here on behalf of the Indiana State Bar Association. And I have with me Bruce Blomberg, who is with the Indiana Department of Education, and we are here to give a CLE on the Indiana Kids election. And as you can tell, we are being videotaped, so if you have any questions at the end, I will be repeating them just so everybody in the TV audience can hear those questions. But we thank you very much for being here and for being excited and interested about participating in the program. It's my understanding that most of the people in this room have already signed up to give presentations for the Indiana Kids election, and for that we're very grateful. But if any of you have not yet signed up to participate in the Indiana Kids election, there with your CLE materials there's a form for you to fill out that you can leave with us if you are interested in participating in Indiana Kids election, and hopefully by the end of the hour you will all be chomping at the bit to participate in this program because it's really a great one. The Indiana Kids election is a very well-established program. It was started in 1992 as a partnership between the Indiana State Bar Association, the Indiana Secretary of State, and the Indiana Department of Education. And what it is, it's a mock election program for Indiana students. And the Indiana Kids election, or IKE for short, was created to fill a need. Under Indiana law, which Bruce will talk about in his part of the program, schools are required to teach about the election process. And what this program does is provides teachers with the lesson plans they need to meet this requirement, and hopefully meet it in a fun way that really engages the kids. And the lesson plans or curriculum guides meet current state academic standards and are approved by the Indiana Department of Education, so they're both accurate and reliable. Okay, and I am going to be starting with this PowerPoint presentation, and you do in your materials have a copy of this presentation, but we're going to go ahead and get started. Starting here are just some quotes from people who have been in the program in the past. Indiana teacher, I had a parent tell me that her son voted at school and told her that she had to go vote. And it was the first time that she'd ever voted in an election. So this program really does make an impact to the kids and beyond. From a teacher, IKE took something we have to teach and turned it into a valuable lifelong lesson. The build-up to Election Day will forever be one of my favorite memories as a teacher. Okay, and what's great this year, obviously this year is our Indiana State Bicentennial. And what the Indiana Bicentennial Commission has done this year, they have officially endorsed the 2016 Indiana Kids election, also known as IKE, as a bicentennial legacy project. That's a really big deal, and we're very excited for that honor. Before I go further, is there anybody in the room who has already participated in the Indiana Kids election program? If you can raise your hands. 1, 2, all right. When we give this presentation next year, it's going to be all of you. But you know that's great. And Andy, you said that you participated. Is that right? When did you participate last?
4 years ago.
4 years ago. And where did you present?
I can't remember what number school I was in. I was in an IPL school. IPS, and I had 4th and 5th grade students. And I actually went out a couple days before we did the actual election and saw some of the projects they were working on. Kids were really excited and very knowledgeable, and very opinionated.
Yes. Well, and that's a good point, because a lot of times people will ask, well, you know, what do we talk about? Will the kids have questions? And it really will depend. You know, as Andy is saying, especially the younger kids, it seems, have a lot of questions and like to talk. And then the older students, maybe some of the high school kids might just be there because they were told that if the presentation is today, that meant that quiz they were supposed to have today is not going to be until tomorrow. So it gives them an extra day to study. So as far as the motivations of the older kids, it's good to try and motivate them, with our presentations. And the thing about the older students is that, again, there are a lot of high school seniors who will be 18 by the time that you're able to register to vote, which is October 11th of this year. And so this program really can have some real-world implications. Okay. And the Indiana Kids election is going to be held on Election Day, November 8th, where students across Indiana will elect their own governor, senator, and president in a show of active citizenship through IKE, which is an award-winning mock election program for grades kindergarten through 12. And when teachers sign up to participate in the program, they're asked if they would like to have an attorney come and speak to their classroom. And overwhelmingly, the teachers say, yes, we do want an attorney to come and speak to our classroom. And as an attorney volunteer, you will be provided with a canned presentation to give, or you can create your own presentation. We know a lot of you are very busy, so we want to make this as easy as possible for all of you to participate in the process. Now, I know you raised your hand, sir, and said, what's your name? Duan. Did you participate 4 years ago as well? And where did you participate? Roncalli. Middle school. How was that? Did they have a lot of questions for you?
Not as many as you would think, but some more interesting than others.
See, you've been taught to think on your feet, so it was no sweat. That's right. Okay. Well, again, we recognize you're very busy, and so we will have presentations that are age appropriate no matter what school you go to, whether it's an elementary school, a middle school, or a high school. And the Speakers Bureau is intended to take place before Election Day. Okay. And again, under Indiana law, the schools are required to teach about this. Okay. And in addition to providing a Speakers Bureau of attorney volunteers to the teachers, we also provide resources. I voted stickers, a student voter registration form, a student ballot form, and a poll book. So when the kids, after they've registered, sign in to vote, they actually sign the poll book to show that they are voting. So we try to make it as real world as possible for the kids. And again, the registration is on or before October 11th, and the casting the ballot on the 8th, just like their parents. So where do attorneys come into play? Attorneys, judges, paralegals, and law students can all participate in the Speakers Bureau. So for instance, if you have a paralegal who always complains that you don't give them anything fun to do, guess what? Now made their day. This is fun. Similarly, if you're in court and you're talking to a judge, talking to them about volunteering in the program, it's really great. That the kids really love it when judges come, and sometimes the judges wear their robes into the presentation. It's just a lot of fun for the kids to see a judge off the bench. So. Okay. And more than 900 schools are signed up to participate so far, and actually the current numbers as of this morning, 934 schools are registered. And of these schools, 624 schools have requested a speaker. We only have 224 attorney volunteers signed up so far. So again, the need is great for everybody to participate. Again, your paralegal can do it, law clerk can do it, and you can do it. And the beauty of the Speakers Bureau is you don't have to speak just once. So if you are inspired, and we hope you are, you can volunteer to speak on 2 different occasions. And that would be much appreciated if you would do so. Okay. How do you participate? To participate, you sign up at www.inkidselection.com. And I'm going to go ahead and take you to that website right now to show you a few of the features. Another thing, if you forget that it's www.inkidselection.com, literally if you just Google Indiana Kids Election, it'll pop right up. Okay. And the first thing that I want to show you is under Newsroom. It's the IKE participation map. And this will just take a minute to come to populate here. This is all the schools all across the state that have already signed up to participate. And again, if you click on this map, you can actually see, again, the particular school, Delphi Community Elementary, Delphi Community School District, the teacher's name, Jamie Robinette. So she has already signed up. And again, this is particularly helpful if you want to see, let's say you're from Delphi, you went to Delphi Community Elementary, and you want to speak there, you can look there and quickly see, has somebody already signed up? Additionally, if you are curious, you can also email Carissa Long of the State Bar Association at clong@inbar.com to get a list of participating schools or to ask her particular questions regarding whether or not a school has signed up. Something else I want to show you is for lawyers, and this is where you will really want to take a look at, and that's obviously, again, at the top right. The lawyer sign-up form, again, if you haven't signed up, you can actually sign up online. So for some reason, if that form to sign up gets lost or what have you, you can always sign up online if you haven't. The Speakers Bureau, FAQ, that will give you information about how to have press and local media to cover your presentation. And then the third one, the Speakers Bureau Training, CLE September 1, that is this. And as I said earlier, we are videotaping this, and this particular PowerPoint presentation that I'm using today and the video are going to be on the website. So that'll be another resource for our volunteers. Okay. And then presentation materials. Okay. The first thing that I want to show you is, for those of you that are going to participate in elementary schools, we will give each one of you this book entitled Presidential Elections and Other Cool Facts. And this book is a book, obviously, for you to read and to share with the students, and then you will leave the book with the teacher at the end of your presentation. And it has such cool facts as something that might be of particular interest to Indiana students. The vice president becomes president. 9 times in this country's history, a vice president has become president. The first time this happened was in 1841 when John Tyler succeeded William Henry Harrison after Harrison died. William Henry Harrison from Indiana as well. Okay. So again, this is a great book that you again can either read to the students or you can just use another presentation if you want. But again, this would be available for you just to read to the students and then have question and answer afterward. And then along with the presentation materials, we have a Jeopardy game. And right now on the website, it's for elementary schools. But we will be getting an age-appropriate Jeopardy game for middle schools and for high school students. And while I'm at it, let me go ahead and... Where's my PowerPoint? There we go. Talk about a few other things, and then we'll actually get to a Jeopardy game. Okay. Other components of the Indiana Kids election, which are really important and we're very excited about. On September 27th, students across Indiana will be able to see the gubernatorial candidates have a town hall meeting at Lawrence North High School as part of IKE. And that's, we are teaming up with the Indiana Debate Commission to organize this event as a way to kick off the Debate Commission's official debate season this fall. And a live webcast will be made available to schools statewide through WFYI-TV. Also, the Indiana Kids Election sponsors an elementary school art contest, and prizes will be given out to the first, second, and third place, and honorable mention in each category. And the winning art will be on display as part of a special bicentennial celebration at the Indiana State House. Okay. See, and you'll have the Jeopardy music in all its glory in your presentation. So if that doesn't make the kids excited to vote, I don't know what will. So, okay, so who leads the country? The rules for electing the president. The Electoral College. The presidential campaign. If something happens to the president. Vocabulary. And those are the categories, not a potent potables in the bunch, because it is for kids. Okay. All right. When people make choices by voting. Election. Now, I will leave it up to you whether or not you want to make the kids answer in the form of a yes. The U.S. Senators and Representatives make the country's blank in Congress. Laws. What are laws? Okay. And again, materials for the middle and high school are almost ready, and they will be on the website, definitely ready to go by late September. And again, the Indiana Kids Election website is just a really great resource. And again, when you sign up, when a teacher signs on and you get matched with that teacher, it will be your responsibility to schedule the presentation with the teacher, again, in advance of the election, and usually in advance of October 11th, the registration deadline. And again, the presentation will be about an hour long. And again, but that would just be depending on the teacher's schedule. If the teacher says I only have half an hour, then your presentation will be half an hour. And like we were talking about earlier, do leave some time for question and answers, because again, the young people will have questions, and they may be some interesting questions that you'll want to discuss with the kids. So, all right, well, I will now leave this presentation in Bruce's able hands. Again, he's with the Department of Education.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So here's the Indiana code that Joan was talking about. And I only show that here just kind of a for-your information. It's not something that you need to share. It's just kind of maybe puts things in context and say exactly what schools are supposed to be doing. 2 weeks prior to the election, schools 6 through 12 are supposed to provide 5 resuscitation periods, class periods on the election. You can see it's a number of different things. And the Indiana Kids Election takes care of that if they participate in that. Again, I'm not sure you need to go into the school and talk about Indiana Code 2035-4, but again, for your, just for background for you. So some helpful hints. My job, I think, is to try to help you feel comfortable talking in front of a different kind of an audience, because a classroom can be quite different than a courtroom, let's say. And a group of kids can be quite intimidating if you've not done it before. I taught for 40 years, mostly high school, so I understand that. The biggest thing I can say is to be prepared. And that seems so simple, but yet it is so true. So what do we mean when we say be prepared? Well, Joan referred to some of this. Contact your school or the teacher, whichever, if you have a teacher contact. You need to find out a number of things for your planning. How many students are you going to be talking to? What grade level are they? What expectations does the teacher or the school have of you? Are there questions ahead of time that they would like to provide to you that you could answer and include in your presentation? How long do you have? And it could be some schools, they may tell you an hour and a half, they may tell you 25 minutes. It depends on the school. Okay? Part of being prepared also is you being comfortable with your presentation. So that means more than just knowing I have a Jeopardy game and that I can click on it, and then the day of, you basically look at that Jeopardy game for the first time. Not sure that's the best plan of attack. If you don't feel comfortable, it's kind of like if you're standing in front of a barking dog, that dog knows if you're afraid of it. If you're standing in front of a group of students, they know if you're prepared or not. Trust me, they do. So, be prepared. Also, have a plan B. Because schools, funny things happen in schools. You just never know what it is. The schedule can change. The power can go out. What you thought was going to work for your presentation may not work. All sorts of different things. So always have a plan B, and if you know your presentation frontwards and backwards and forward, all of that, then you can do that. Technology. We rely so much on technology, and technology is great as long as it works. Okay? When you're contacting the school, what do you need? Do I need to bring my own projector, LCD projector? You have one? Okay. Is there sound? Do I need to bring speakers? Do you have a clicker, or do I need something? Because if you're going to do a PowerPoint, these are really, really nice, rather than having to be tied to a computer. Let me tell you, technology can and will always fail. Okay? So, again, plan B. I bring everything with me, quite honestly, folks. I present to schools quite often. And I find for me, my best plan of attack, I bring my own computer, I bring my own speakers, I bring my own clicker, I bring everything that I have so I can set up with my own equipment. Quite honestly, your presentation will probably work better on your computer than their school computer. So if you can use your own computer and easily set that up to their projector, I highly recommend that, because then now you're using a device that you are familiar with, not their device. Okay? A lot of funny things can happen. You might have a PC, the school might have a Mac, then the formatting could be all off. All sorts of different kinds of things like that. Okay? Now, part of the presentation, we're hoping, from the Secretary of State's office is going to be a video. And they're interviewing the three candidates for governor. And they're asking them to give some background information, why they want to be governor, and what is the main thing they want to accomplish if they become governor. So you get the three same questions for all three of the candidates. And then there's going to be questions provided that go along with a video that you can use. It's going to be a great resource, and highlighting the governor's race over the other two, we'll talk about some of that here in just a minute. Okay, if you're not going to use your own computer, I highly recommend getting the PowerPoint, the Jeopardy game, and the video to the school ahead of time. And hopefully all of that can be downloaded from our site. I'm not sure about the video yet, but I'm hopeful that we can have the video so that it can be downloaded by the school and they can have it. That way they can download it, see if it works, hopefully have it ready for you when you get there. Okay? I would suggest also, if possible, getting to the school a little bit early. Now this depends on where you're going to be giving your presentation. If it's in an actual classroom, if you're going into a teacher's classroom, that might not be possible, of course, because the teacher's teaching, the kids are there, and so on. But if you're presenting in front of 2 or 3 different classes, which many schools have multiple classes, and we would probably just send one speaker to that school for that kind of a situation. Maybe you can go to the presentation room, whoever's in charge of the IT will help you, hopefully, and you can see and make sure everything works before the kids come in. Okay? Whenever I go to present, I always go in thinking, maybe it's not going to work. I want to make sure. I just like to be kind of as prepared as I could be for that, and it makes me feel more comfortable, and I think you'll feel more comfortable as well. Okay, something for you to think about doing as you are preparing is looking at the Indiana academic standards. And I've pulled the standards for the different grade level. And you can see some of the things in grade 3, identify and explain the duties of and the selection process for local and state government officials. Explain the role of citizens. Explain the role that citizens have in making decisions and rules within the community, such as voting in elections, it says. Okay, now, this is kind of background material for you. I don't think you need to, in your presentation, be quoting standard 323, anything like that. This is just for your information. These are things at this grade level that the students at some point are going to be introduced to. And so if you're introducing these things to them, then you're helping the teacher out by meeting some of the expectations of academic standards. So these are grades 3 and 4. The majority of you are probably going to be speaking to 3rd, 4th, or 5th grade. That's what it sounds like. 5th grade, there's a few more standards. You can see something about political parties. That's a good topic you might want to include. Primary and general elections. What's the difference between the two? Again, more about voting. The next time we see standards for specific to U.S. elections is in grade 8. I put this first standard up here, the 819 standard. Well, this is a history standard, and I wouldn't expect that you would go in and give a history lesson on the election of 1800. But this is interesting in that in this election, there was a complete change of power from one political party to the other. That's a possibility in any election that you might want to include. That's why we have elections. If the public is unhappy with a political party, they can vote them out. And it's happened here. Okay, another election. Citizens can participate. Again, more on voting and political parties. There are a few presentations that will go into the high school, and you would use government standards for the high school. You can see they're a little bit more analyzing and explaining and going into more detail than the earlier standards, but they're really covering many of the same things. The electoral process. One thing, the second one, to maybe the only president from the state of Indiana, Benjamin Harrison. That might be an interesting thing to include in a presentation. Political parties again. And then the one that is the hardest for anybody, including a 40-year teacher, to explain, the Electoral College. GASP. Upper grades kids would probably have questions about that, though. I'd like to direct your attention to this website. Tons of civics resources here. And you can see there's just a whole list. There's different things starting with, whoops, let me go, that's not, there we go. Starting with the Indiana Kids election, this is another place you can get Indiana Kids election things, but you can, things on registering to vote, on Indiana elections, different kinds of websites that provide different kinds of activities. And I think the purpose that you could use this site for is, again, informative, things that you might be able to use in a presentation. I don't think there's anything canned here that you could just click on and use in your presentation, but if you're trying to put something together, this would be could be a great resource for you. So, You have the Jeopardy. That you can use that, what you can talk about. You'll probably have a video from the Secretary of State's office on the gubernatorial candidates that with questions provided that'd be a great resource that you can use. Is there anything else that you can talk about? Yes, there is. You can talk about all sorts of things with voting. What is voting? Why do people vote? Some of the things we vote about in the classroom. This one is especially good for the younger grades because they're not going to understand so much about voting for people, voting for a governor or a president. I'm not sure that a first or a second grader is going to completely understand that. They might vote for and understand as a class, which color do we like better, red or blue, or something like that. Let's see. You could also include with this what qualifications are there to vote, and how do you register to vote. All of those things that deal with voting. Again, all of these things can be tied into the materials that you're going to be provided with the video and the Jeopardy game. You can talk about the history of voting. Who can vote? Has it always been that way? Why or why not? What groups have always had the right to vote? Who was left out? What challenges had to be overcome for the right to vote? Who can vote now? Some interesting things I just looked up as I was getting ready to come over here this afternoon. Any idea the percentage of registered voters that voted in 2008? 62.3%. In 2012, 57.5%. In Indiana mirrored the national numbers almost exactly, by the way. What percent of eligible voters are actually registered? Any idea? 67%. But that means 1/3 is not. How many people is that? 72,648. Okay? Or 72,648,000. All those go to one candidate. That candidate wins, by the way. Nobody gets that many votes in an election. So the idea about voting and who can vote and registering to vote and does your vote count, all of those kinds of things, all of that can be worked in to this presentation if you wanted to. What about this election? You're going to be talking about the governor's race with a video, probably. Do you want to talk about the president's race? Do you want to talk about the Senate race? You may not want to talk about the president's race. This is one where you might have to be a bit careful, especially on the grade level, because once you start opening this up, depending on the grade level, you might get some really interesting, pointed questions that you might not want to answer. Okay, especially personal questions on who you're going to vote for and all that. Why would you support this person and so on. But we have two other positions that we're talking about here, and well, you could talk about, okay, to be President of the United States, what qualifications must one have to be President of the United States? To be a senator in the U.S. Senate, what qualifications does one have to have? To be governor of the state of Indiana, what qualifications does one need to have? Okay, all those kinds of things could be included in the presentation. I put together a couple of other resources here for you. You have Jeopardy. There's a lot of vocabulary on Jeopardy. If you think you need to look at some election vocabulary, This site's pretty cool because it's like flashcards. Sure, it does. Technology is good when it works. But if you look on the left, any of these that you would click on, then you get a definition. If you click on blue state, then you get a definition of blue state and go all the way down. So there might be some things and some words that you could go down and look, and things that you could possibly include in your presentation. Or if you're unsure of a term, there's a quick and easy definition here. I put together another or found another resource here. Whoops, don't want that one yet. This resource starts from the beginning and goes through the inauguration. Now this is president, but it's applicable for both governor and senator, at least many of the stages. And this page can't be displayed. Okay. Let's try again. So this is one of the examples where technology is great, except when it doesn't work. This is a neat resource where it's a car on a road, and the car goes down the road, and as it goes further and further, different road signs pop up from the process. Everything from the primary election process to the debates that we saw way back last spring, to the primary elections, to the summer conventions, to what we're going through right now, within the possible debates coming up, and then the actual election. And it goes through step by step, and it has a little road sign with a small little blurb explaining each step in the process, and it goes all the way through the inauguration of the president. So again, it's kind of a nice thing to look at, just to give one a reminder of what the entire process is. And so if somebody asks you a question about that process and you haven't thought about it for a while, if you've looked at this, maybe it triggers some memory on that. Now we'll have to see if my next one works as well. So if you have upper grade, going to a 8th grade class or a high school class, this is about as good of a resource from the National Archives, hopefully it works, that has all of these different resources about the Electoral College and about elections. It is a wonderful resource you can go through, and if you think in your preparation for organizing your presentation and your talk with the teacher, and they say, yeah, we want to know all this about the Electoral College, and you don't feel comfortable about the Electoral College, this is where you should go. There's a lot of good information that will explain it there. And like I said, it is a difficult thing to explain. We've seen that already. I just want to encourage you to, if you need a place to look for standards or for resources, wonderful list of resources that can be found here. Okay, big thing, you should always leave time for questions. Okay, now, somebody mentioned they didn't get very many questions, and I put up there, don't be offended if none are asked. It depends on the class, quite honestly. Some classes, just the makeup of the class will make it so that you'll get so many questions it'll make your head spin. I'd say also don't be offended by the type or the kind of question that you get. I go back to way back when Art Linkleiter had a show, and kids say the darndest things, and they might say the darndest thing to you as far as a question concerning the election. Don't be surprised if they don't ask some kind of personal questions, who are you going to vote for? Are you a Republican or are you a Democrat? Why are you that? And so on and so forth. That's up to you as to whether or not you feel you want to divulge that kind of information. As a teacher, I usually try not to. Unfortunately, I think students that have a teacher throughout the year, they probably sort of figure it out as the year goes on, but that doesn't mean you have to tell them specifically. But again, if plan B, you've left time for questions and you don't get any, what do? You've still got 10 minutes left that you're supposed to fill here. My suggestion is have your own questions that you've prepared ahead of time, questions that you might have thought of, that you could then maybe ask your class based on what we've had in our presentation, if they can answer them and you can guide them along and use the time that way. So you still have questions. There might be questions that you've asked, and you never know. You ask a question and it might trigger a question to come back your way. Again, my name is Bruce Blomberg. This is my contact information. If you have any questions, concerns, whatever, email me is the best. Obviously, I'm not at my desk all day long, so I do respond to emails. So please, and I'm sure Joan would be happy to answer questions, and I'm sure Carissa Long here at the Bar Association would be happy as well if you have any kind of a question. So now, do you have any questions?
Bruce, do you want to show everyone the book for the elementary students that should be up in the podium?
I think Joan did.
Oh, you did. I'm sorry, I missed that part.
Well, that's okay. If it's here, it's very cool looking. And by the way, when I said that William Henry Harrison had Indiana ties, I was wrong. It's Benjamin Harrison.
Well, William Henry Harrison was governor, but he was not president from Indiana. He was president from Ohio.
So see, this is why it's so important to participate in the process, you know. And again, this just underscores what a fantastic resource Bruce is. Again, as you're preparing your presentations, please do not hesitate if you have questions. You know, Bruce has just been so helpful with us through this process, and he knows a lot. So, all right. Yes.
I have a question. The presentations that we will be doing in the schools, is that part of a longer program that teachers are doing, and a longer curriculum that the teachers are doing, or is this like a one-time deal? This is their election education.
This is I would say this is part of their election education, but your presentation pretty much is a one-time deal. They may take the information that you provide in this presentation and then go with it and take it and do things in their class beyond your presentation. But yeah, I think it's a one-time deal because we're talking about the current election, and you're the kind of the superstar coming in to talk about the voting. So, okay. Yes.
You said something about there are only 200 some volunteers and there are something like 600 or 700 schools that want speakers. Does that mean we're going to be asked to do it 2, 3, 4 times?
Well, only if you want to do a presentation more than once. A lot of times what will happen is if 2 different teachers from a particular school want to have a speaker, then what they'll do is they will have all the kids go in one of the rooms, and then the one speaker will present to the 2 or 3 classes.
Curious, how often do you have to deny teachers' requests?
Well, we have not we would have not had to do so, and that's our goal, is to not have to say no to anybody. And the last election cycle, Secretary of State Connie Lawson went probably, I would say just a ton of presentations, again, just really doing a lot of work just to make sure that no classroom no teacher that wanted a presenter was left without. But again, if any of you would like to do 2 presentations, that would be great. So, yes.
So there's this attachment to the CLE form where we give our information about speaking, but I would say that we also need to go to the website and sign up there.
No, it's an either or. So if it's easier for you just to sign up on this form, that's great. Then you can leave it with us. But if you prefer to take a look at the website first and then you can go ahead and register online, that would be fine too.
Please tell all of your colleagues, friends, tell them what a great opportunity this could be for them. We obviously have a number of spots to fill as far as speakers. And we'd like to make the volunteers to make it as easy and not a burden where we're asking the same person to do multiple times. And so one way to prevent that is to have many, many, many more people. So if you could help in that regard and be a mouthpiece for us to encourage others that you see to participate in this, that would just be wonderful. We'd really appreciate that.
Do you have to be an attorney to do this?
No, attorney, paralegal, judge,
Somebody that works in government affairs?
yes, that would be great.
Law students.
Law student, yes, there's no requirement that you be an actual licensed attorney. Yes.
About when we know what school we're going.
Well, again, we're trying to get that all done as soon as possible. Probably, we're hoping late September, I believe, is our goal.
We're at the late, I think, Chris, the latest we're hoping is by 1st of October, that we have a really good handle.
I believe the date is October 11th.
Okay. But that's the date for
Have
the,
everything matched by October 11th.
Okay.
but it's our goal to get that done way before, since October 11th is the deadline for registration. And we want to try and keep this as realistic for the kids as possible. So. Any other questions?
Yes.
You need to fill out the time, so I'm asking more questions.
Sure.
Do the kids have a mock registration form that they're filling out in their own classroom?
Yes.
They do.
Yes, there's a mock registration form. There's a poll book that when and number one, they have to register. So if they're not there that day, they forget, what have you, they don't register, they cannot vote. Again, we're trying to keep the process as realistic as possible. And then so on election day, they sign the poll book. And it's my understanding that in schools where the kids have ID cards, that what they've done is they've had the kids show their ID cards, and if the kids don't have their ID cards, they say, well, you need to go get it and bring it back before we'll let you sign this poll book. Again, they're trying to keep it as realistic as possible. And then we have the mock ballots, and then once the kids vote, they get an I voted sticker. And again, and then once all the votes are tallied, it's my understanding that the teachers will submit that information to us, and then the results, I believe, will be posted on the IKE website. Do you know when that will be?
Well, we're hoping we're hoping to have a jot form site that totals can be entered into, and then automatically a bar graph will show the progress of which candidate has how many votes. We're going to start that on November 7th because some schools are not in school on election day, and probably keep it open at least through the 9th to give schools a chance to turn in their results to this. The other thing I'll say is on the registration form, there's actually a couple kinds of registration forms. There's one that would be much more elementary, that just basically is maybe name and address and so on. Then there's another one that is taken directly from the Indiana form and does has every box that would be appropriate for a school, for not every one, was it, but it's as close to the actual Indiana registration form as we could get. Okay?
How do you indicate that you'll do more than one school? Because I didn't see that on my one.
You can indicate it on the form here, and I believe that if you are interested in doing one more school, I'm surprised. I didn't see it. Okay, you didn't see it on the form. I would contact Carissa, and that's CLong at let me get that information, inbar.com. Let me make sure that's right.
.org.
.org, sorry. Thank you. But one thing, I just thought of something else. Once you get paired with your school and you're in contact with the teacher, if it's prior to the 27th, definitely let them know about that town hall meeting, and it is going to be broadcast on WFYI. Let them know about that. Also, if you get paired with an elementary school, please also remind the teacher about the elementary art contest as well.
The questions for this town hall are actually coming from students, and we have at least five high schools attending the debate. So the questions will come from that group, and the first town hall, the main topic is going to be education, so it fits right in with the students, but it's going to be, I can't imagine a neater experience for a high school kid to be able to ask a question of one of the candidates on something that you think is important on education. And so that's really going to be a neat event.
What offices are the students going to be doing their mock election for?
President, governor, and senator.
And for each, there's Republican, Democrat, and Libertarian for each.
Any other questions? How are we on time?
You have like 5 minutes?
5 minutes.
Yeah.
Just a FYI, if people haven't been to school in a long time, security is different. So you have to bring ID and plan for extra time to check in, and sometimes get badges and things.
You normally have to go to the front desk.
Yes, that's a good point.
And get that. That would be something else to ask when you contact the school ahead of time. Not only where do I check in, what door do I come in, the schools normally have all the doors numbered, so they'll give you, come in door number 3 or something like that. But asking where to park can be, because there's limited parking at many schools, and depending on the time of day, there may be buses coming in and out, and you might not be allowed to park on the curb, and you didn't know that, and so you don't want to get into that kind of a situation at the school.
Any other questions? All right, thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate it, and we look forward to having you all participate in the Indiana Kids election. Thank you again for your time and your attention.